Hi everyone. Okay, in this video I'm going to take you through how to import some external libraries. Now it quite often comes up that people want to use something different, something that's not a Twinker HMI component, and a example of this is maybe navigation. So navigation has only just come about with the actual toolset that we have available, but quite often someone might say, well, I've seen this nice navigation online, I'd like to use it. How do I bring in an external library for something like navigation? So we can use this example for bringing in any library, and but obviously this one's got a bit of a theme to it. So a library that's quite common, I would say, especially amongst the web developer world, is Bootstrap. So, and what we've got here is the Bootstrap itself. It's just a way of building up web pages. It's a really nice framework to use, and it comes with loads of pre-baked components. So one of them being this navigation bar, and they show an example here of just like a nice little drop down that you get, some links and a little search box. We won't implement the search box, that's slightly different, although still completely possible. And they give you a section here of just all of the HTML that is used to create this. Now, the first things first is if you're going to import a new library, you need to have that library. So with Bootstrap, there's just a download section, which actually gives us this Bootstrap distribution. So I've already downloaded that. I'm just going to go onto my project, and all I'm going to do for the moment is take that Bootstrap folder, and I'm going to drag it straight into imports. And it's going to bring all of those files across. Sticking it in the imports folder is all going to naturally be imported in the project itself. So that part is now done. Second thing we need to do, I'm just going to go a little toolbox and drag in a HTML host, which I'm going to just put at the top because navbar's generally at the top. And not shut that down. I'm going to set that to 0, 0. Right hand side, I may as well do a 0 as well because I'm pushing it all the way to the other side. You could do width 100%, but in this instance I'll do away with the width. And height, I'm just going to keep that as a value at the moment because we don't want to drag the HTML host too far down, only because it prevents clicks. So if I was to have what I've got at the moment is I'm going to simulate the navbar by changing pages. If that navbar was to be over the top of the page, it will prevent the click from occurring underneath. So just bear that in mind. So there is a little workaround we're going to do. You'll see a problem that will occur and how we go about solving it as well. So this is our HTML host. So I'm just going to call it that, HMI HTML host. Shall we call it something different? Yeah, because it'll make it easier to type later. I'm going to call it my navbar. There we go, capital M-N-B. There we go. So what we need to do as well is we've got this nice example they've prepared for us. Let's just swap back onto that other page. I'll just use this button instead. I'm just going to copy that straight off their site. Now, when you use a HTML host, you have to swap to the HTML view because this is inside this HTML element. This is where we're allowed to type real HTML. If you put HTML on the outside of it, it doesn't come across. So you have to put them in a host. I won't tidy that up too much because we won't do really on styling, just more copy pasting. We will now swap back onto the design mode, and you can see already we've got a bar coming up. I am going to just swap this over. You won't see this on your screen here, but I'm just going to move this across so we can start live viewing it on Chrome, and I'm just going to move that down slightly to make it easier to go backwards and forwards between two. So here we go. So already we've got a navbar that's for all intensive purposes looks like it's working. You can see the issue that we've got. So this thing here, if I go back to this one and just extend that down a little bit, and go back, now the drop down shows. So that is definitely an issue. The other thing that we can see is it sits underneath, which is also not good. So we need to resolve those 2 points. So that's the first thing we're going to resolve. So first off, I'm going to make it the size of the navbar. That's the size I want it to be. Because it's a navbar and I want the Z index to be high, I'm going to say no. You will always sit on top of content. So if you've got flyouts, bits and pieces like that, I want you to be on top. So I'm going to set its Z index to quite a high number. Now you tend to find things like flyouts and pop-ups. They tend to push them right up into the 2000s, 3000s. I don't know how high you can go with a z-index, but a z-index is how you stipulate on HTML who do you want sitting in front of who. If you don't, it's kind of done in the order that the components have been made. But if you want to impose a raw on who's on the front layer, that's z-index, and the higher the z-index, the further forwards on the page it is. So I'm just going to save that. That resolves a first issue. But so if that home screen, if that wasn't covering, that home screen would now be underneath. The issue we have now is a problem with how the HTML host works with overflow. So I need to kind of set this up. Hopefully I can get it. There we go. So I can just get enough in there, and I'm just going to drag this one up as well. Now I'm going to just right click and say inspect on the HTML. It's not going to do it. It's actually going to push me right into something I've actually clicked on. But I'm going to make my way up until I find the HTML host. So my navbar. Yep, that's the HTML host. You can see here overflow by default is set to hidden. So if I untick this, because I'm allowed to do stuff that in Chrome and DevTools, which means I can affect the CSS after the page has been given to me. And this is a way of me allowing to see what type of styles I can do, and especially if I want to go in and find where is a visual style being set, for example. Ideal place to do this. Now if I open this up, we can see just by disabling overflow hidden, so I already know that's something I need to do, is disable overflow hidden. I can see now that this is working as expected, and there's no actions on this so far, but that's definitely working as we'd expect it to. So I need to counteract this overflow hidden here. Now there's a way of doing that, and what I wouldn't do, well, depends on how flexible I want to be with this, because one thing I do know that I've got is an ID of my navbar. So, and it does apply, this visual styling does apply to this my navbar. So I'm just going to copy this little bit out here just so I don't have to type it. We'll go with that route to start with. Let's go the easy way, so because we may as well do easy coding. So I'm just going to go into the themes, base themes, and this base style CSS. So we've got a nice little place here where we can write CSS. For the moment, I'm just going to stick it on top so we can all see it. And I have to remember how it is. It's my navbar. You're probably all shouting at the screen now because you've probably seen a typo of mine, because I can't remember if it's hash, which indicates ID. Can't remember. I know if you keep it plain, that means it's the type, the HTML actual element itself. So in this instance, the HTML document. There's probably div tags, paragraphs, H1 for headers. The dot notation means it's the class name that we're targeting, and I think it's a hash means that this is going to be is any one of that ID. So I'm going to change overflow hidden. I'm going to say that is going to be, what are we going to change it to? So instead of just disabling it, we can change overflow to visible, and that should be the same thing. So yeah, we go. So that's what I want to set it to, overflow visible. Again, this is a live coding, so I'm not actually sure if this is going to work off the bat. So let me just refresh, and yeah, there we go. So that worked perfectly. So that's good. So I'm targeting the navbar ID. Another way you can do this is by adding a class. So if you want let's say for example, we always want anything, we want to be able to add to anything the ability to set its overflow to visible. What you'd be doing there is making a new control class. Let's run through it. So this is all tutorials. So I want it to say overflow is visible. That's going to be my class. So anything I apply overflow visible to, it will gain the overflow visible CSS. It doesn't have to only contain that CSS. That's just what I've got that CSS doing. But a class name, you could have a class name of not important. That's a bad one. Take action, something like that. And if I apply that class to an object, it may take a background color of blue and it may make everything bold. That's what a class name is doing. It's a way of grouping some visual stylings under the name of a class. I just had to drop out then, so just returning back. Okay, so we've just made this control class here, overflow visible. Let's just save that. You have to save this so it makes it available for the rest of the editor. I'm just going to go back into desktop view now. And so instead of we're targeting this by name now, I'm just going to go down into class names and apply the overflow visible class name to it. Let me just OK that. Now it's fine. If you can add themes and styling to it this way. So by dropping some of these colors in, everything's available here that's available in Twinkle HMI. And all you do is just add them to this side panel and say, I want it to be bold, I want it to be background color. That's our standard way of doing classes. Ours is slightly different because what we're saying is I want to add CSS that's not available in this list. So how you do that, and this is the technique that I use because I can't remember it every time and I always have to keep going backwards to it. I'm just going to go and inspect this element again and look up here, because what we can see in this class names, I've got loads of classes. So Twinkle HMI builds up loads of classes on elements, which is what brings all the visual styling of normal Twinkle HMI. But what we can see here is it has added CCHMI class overflow visible. That's the one we've just made. So I'm going to copy that out, because that's the name I have to match in order for me to talk in CSS as a class name instead. So this time, instead of doing my navbar, which is very specific, it's not very reusable because anything other than my navbar won't have overflow. What's going to be better is if you just do the point, which means I'm referring to a class name, and then it's this class name. So anything with the overflow visible will gain this. If I save that now, and we'll go back and we'll refresh, it still works. There we go. So we completely targeted it. We're not targeting it via its name. We're now targeting it by class, and we can pepper that class over any other element that we've got, any other Twinkle HMI element that we want overflow to be visible. So a couple of ways of doing it. I'll leave that up to you what you want to do. I tend to bake them into classes because then anyone can benefit from that. I may have something else down the line that I think, I need that overflow to be visible as well. I just add the class name now. Right, so we're pretty much there at that point. So the only thing we need to do now is actually change the content of this region. So I've just stuck this region kind of in the middle at the moment, just so it doesn't clash with anything. Now, I'm just going to go in, because we're going to be doing this via code. So if I'm going to go, I'll just quickly drop onto the desktop view, just so I can see what this region's called. So it's just TCHMI region. That's what I've named it. And normally what we do is we target this target content, and we can pick which of the pages we want it to show. So I've just made two pages just here, just so we've got something to see if it works. So if we just go into pages home, just to keep it as it is, what I'm going to do is try the code out first in Chrome. I mean, this is a technique you'll see me use a lot. So I know that the API is TCHMI, gives me TCHMI namespace, all the goodies that we get with TCHMI. Dot controls is the first one I want to do because I want to use something. I want to go and get a control, so I can say controls.get. Open, it's a method. Start string, TCHMI region is the name of the thing I want to get. Close it, and you can see it's already saying I've found someone. If you hit enter at this point, I'm going to return you an object which is this TCHMI region. If that come up with undefined, you tend to know that you've gone wrong somewhere. You can already see it's I've had a little run through before already when I first did this for a customer. And what I want to do is show you what it looks like when I get the target. So I'm going to say get target content. Again, that's a method, and hit enter on that. You can see it's just holding a string called pages home content. And when we look at that, it's just referring to this, pages home content. So it should be that if I make that settings.content, it should change page. So we're going to just do the reverse of that. So instead of get target content, I'm going to say set target content, and I'm going to paste in there. Oops, not the region. So that was pages / settings. I think I did settings content, and there we go. And it's done the page change. So this is what we would use to do a programmed version of I want to swap what's inside a region. Normally we're doing it by writing to a symbol. We would actually write to the symbol of. But in the background, it's just doing this, just getting and setting the target content. That's it. So this is doing it via JavaScript. So the final steps, how do we tie the whole thing together so the navbar is doing what we want it to do? So I'm just going to swap back into code view. I'm just going to actually just put some things in here as well. I'm going to target this drop down menu. I like the drop down menu. I might even get rid of some of these other ones. So this link active. So what was this? This was home, although home's natty. Again, this is more for just an example. I'm just going to get rid of these ones so I can see only the drop down list. So that's my drop down list. There's a nice divider there. That's quite nice too. So yeah, let's get rid of that one too. So we've just got two things, and this one I'm going to call it home. We'll call it home screen. This one's going to be setting screen. Because again, you're using your own control now, so you have to code it in HTML. That's just one of those things. This one here, we don't need this disable ones, but they show you how to do all this. And I'm going to get rid of that form as well. I don't want the search bar just to confuse all of this for the moment. So looking at this, I've still got disabled there. Let me just double check. Oh, there we go. So this is kind of what I'm going to attach to now. So this setting screen and home screen. And right, so what we need to do is make a. We still need to live in this my navbar area, and I'm just going to put in here a scripts notation. Okay, so the scripts notation, I'm going to just pull this out of something I've pre-written just to save you watching me code it. This was just off the web. Okay, so this is jQuery here. So jQuery is just another thing that you get already baked into Twink HMI. So a very common framework in web development. So what it's saying here is this little bit first says, hey, find an element that has home as its ID. So what we can do in here is this class of button. I can say, well, your ID is going to be equal to home. So you are the home, or home button. We could do that type of thing, and you are going to be ID is equal to settings. And finish that one off. There we go. So what I'm saying here is find someone who is the ID home, which is this href. This is clickable tag. And I want to make a click function inside you. At the moment, this is probably a good one to just try first. So I'm just going to make sure that actually works. So home clicked or settings clicked. Let's go one step first. So that didn't work. Let's just refresh. There we go. Home clicked and settings clicked. Maybe there's something a bit of a miss there. Settings, take the space away. There we go. Let's just refresh that. Drop down, settings, there we go. So I've got callbacks now occurring when I click on things. And now what we need to do, actually while we're here, I might as well just pull it straight from what it remembers last time. So I'm going to be using this one, this set target. So instead of alert home clicked, we're just going to say, can you go and get that region? And I want you to be set to the home content. And we can all see where this is going. Let's just put an underline, just be tidy. I want you to be settings content. Let's give that a go, just to see if I've got any spelling mistakes. Drop back, refresh. And setting screen, home screen. There we go, perfect. Because this is Bootstrap. So Bootstrap does a certain amount for you as well. So we'll just give that a go. If this doesn't work, I've not got it to auto size. Oh, there you go. It has actually auto size. So the auto size, it does like a minimum size setting here. So, okay, not ideal. It just needs a bit of a tweaking of the actual size of the screen itself. But we've come up with this little, it automatically turns it into one of these things that actually just breaks down this way, opens, and then let's just see if it still works. which completely does. There we go. So the visual stylings of Bootstrap in a Twinker HMI project, and what this whole example has shown you is, yes, you can use external libraries. In this instance, I'm using it to do a navigation, and then all you have to do is just take a little bit of care over the visual styling, because we are wrapping it in a HTML host. By default, the HTML host will overflow invisible. It will cut it off. Anything that falls outside of that HTML host, even if you're using absolute positioning and make sure it's at the top, it just cuts it all off. So we need to just go in and say, no, I want to see things. If you want to pop out over the top of that, I want to be able to see it. And then the other thing as well is, normally this would be, when you click on these things, it'll be finding somewhere in a subpage, or it'll be calling another link somewhere. What we're doing is saying, oh, hang on, jQuery, just go and find the ID. We give these tags a name, go and find them, add a click event, and that click event is back to our usual Twinker HMI get controls, get region sort of page. Okay, all right. Well, I hope this has helped you out. I'll post the. I need to check the licenses actually. I'll check the licenses of Bootstrap to see if they're the GNU public license. If they or GPL, if they are, I probably won't put them on there, because you can just follow through this and just do it yourself. If they're MIT, then I'll stick the copy of that on the server as well. All right, hope that helped.